Hey guys, welcome to episode number 21 of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from very snowy Germany today, which is amazing. So this is a podcast about knitting and spinning, mostly knitting. Sometimes I also sew, but I'm not very good at sewing, and I think it might be time for me to admit that sewing is not really my thing, but I'm not giving up yet. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for checking me out if you haven't watched me before. Today I'm trying to record with a new camera, which should help with the quality, but that also means that I can't really see what I'm recording. I can see it on my computer screen, but there it is very, very delayed. So that just kind of keeps confusing me. And also, it focuses a lot better on my projects, which is amazing, but then it kind of keeps on refocusing. So if that bothers you, let me know. Please just let me know in general if it's better or worse. I try to still look at the camera, but yeah, because it's a new way of recording right now, I feel a bit more all over the place. So yeah, just be patient with me there. Quick reminder, last week in episode number 20, I told you guys who won the prizes for the challenge cow, and one person still hasn't gotten back to me yet. So if you have participated and you haven't watched the last episode, please do so, because I'd really like to get those prizes out to you. Today I'm drinking some fruity blend tea. I don't exactly know which one it is because it is some of my leftover advent calendar tea, and there it just says, for example, fruit spice tea, and it doesn't tell you what's in it, which is kind of weird, but yeah. You totally didn't need to know that, right? I have one finished object for this week, and not very surprisingly, it is my socks. These were the socks that I cast on for the Little Bobbins Christmas Eve cast on. So they were my only official Christmas socks. And I'll show you a close-up of the yarn. Still have to get used to this. So this yarn is by Knitting in France on Etsy, which is a lovely, lovely shop. And this was a one-of-a-kind skein on her sparkle base, so it is merino, nylon, and stellina. And I did a 2x2 rib and a fish lips kiss heel. Can you even see that? Yeah. So this has to be the softest socks that I have ever knit. The yarn is very, very, very soft, and I have really enjoyed it. I haven't worn them yet, which was really hard to not wear them, but so far I've been staying strong. And these were cast on 2.25 millimeters a few times, but I didn't like the fabric, so for the first time ever I knit these on US size 0, so 2.0 millimeter needles. And I used DPNs, I used the Knit Pro Nova DPNs. And with one needle size down, they turned out really, really well. I really noticed that it took me a lot longer to knit these, just because, for example, for the foot, instead of doing 60 or 65 stitches, I had to do rows. I had to do 78 rows. So that definitely made a difference, but I really like them, and I can't wait to try them on now, because now I've shown them to you. So that's my only finished object. Works in progress wise, I don't have a crazy amount of stuff to show you as well, because one work in progress is my shawl design, and I showed you that a little bit last week, but now I am 3 rows from finishing it. So I figured rather than showing it to you almost finished and scrunched up, I will just finish it and then show you next week. I already have 4 test knitters lined up, so the test knitting phase should begin very, very soon, if I actually get around to finishing the pattern. But yeah, I'm really happy with it so far. I hope you don't mind if I don't show it to you this week. Then another work in progress that I had was the Aisling shawl by Vera Välimäki. And I knit until it was time to start the lace edging, until I realized that I had been doing all the increases wrong. Not only wrong, but I had increased twice as many stitches because I didn't read the instructions. So my Aisling shawl now looks like this. which means I have frogged the whole thing and re-skeined the yarn into skeins again. I really didn't want to keep going with it because A, this yarn is a really special yarn to me, so I wanted it to be used for something good. And B, I am too perfectionist to kind of make something up now and then wear it. I think I would always it would always be the failed Aisling shawl. So I think I'll knit the pattern again with a different yarn, and I'll definitely knit the yarn again with a different pattern. But this yarn is Mirasol Sulca Legato. It is really, really beautiful. Look at this. So it is a merino alpaca silk blend, which in itself is also just amazing. So yeah, goodbye Aisling shawl. I was a bit bummed out about it, but then I realized now I have one less work in progress to worry about, and yeah, this will become something beautiful one day. And then my next work in progress you haven't seen before, and it is falling out of its bag. I am knitting socks 2 at a time, people. I am really, really happy about this. So knitting socks 2 at a time is something that I never talked about. Generally because I have been more into knitting socks on DPNs rather than Magic Loop. But pretty randomly I decided that now I want to try it. I want to try everything at the moment, so I've started knitting socks 2 at a time. The yarn, which is gorgeous, is by Ponderosa, which is a German brand again. It is a German indie dyer who I found when I went to the handmade yarn and patchwork festival last year. So I had never heard of them before, but I really, really love them. I love this yarn base. This is their luxury sock base, which is a high twist merino and nylon. And I just love this base. It is gorgeous. And I'm knitting these socks on Adi Premiums. They're the ones with the golden cable. And they are 2.25 millimeters, 100 centimeters long. And so I'll show them to you one last time, and then I'll put them down because I feel like the camera is refocusing all the time. So as you can see, I'm doing a plain vanilla sock. I did a 2x2 rib, and I'm about to start the heels. So with two at a time socks, I know that some people love them and some people hate them. So I kind of wanted to give it a try, but I was pretty scared. Or not scared, but I want my socks to be perfect, and I didn't really want to waste my beautiful yarn on something that wasn't going to turn out perfect. And in the beginning I was kind of struggling with it because I was worried about ladders, so I kept pulling the stitches on the side and in the middle really, really tight, which meant that my hands were all cramped up and it was just not relaxing at all. And then I also made a little mistake, so I picked up an extra stitch, and because I was worried about ladders, I didn't just drop it down the next row, but I then decreased the stitch, so I have a little tiny little mistake in there, which I know that no one will ever see it, but it bothers me. Excuse me. So anyways, I really got better at it. I realized that I was so worried about ladders and I kept pulling the stitches so tight. I was actually creating the opposite of ladders. You know how sometimes you get this sort of tight edge when you pull too tight? So then I realized that I can just kind of relax, and even if it feels like I'm getting ladders, I'm generally not getting ladders. I don't have any ladders in my sock. So now it's really going well. I think I just needed I had a bit of a learning curve. But now my socks are going really well, and I feel like it's coming along pretty quickly. And with yarn management, I figured that out pretty well, or pretty quickly as well. So it's this huge myth that with 2 at a time socks you'll always end up in tangles, but I really quite like this technique. So that is my handspun socks. My last work in progress is to do with a new challenge that I'm starting, so I'll talk about that first. So for a while I've been playing with the idea of doing a handspun challenge, which means that I would always have a handspun project on my needles. And the reason for that is that I have quite a lot of handspun, and what I'm noticing now is also through this challenge I am more motivated to create better yarns and to spin better yarns, because it's one thing to spin the yarn and feel it, and it's a completely different thing to knit with it. So I think as a learning process it's really, really important to knit with my handspun yarn, and obviously I like my yarns. So I decided for myself that I would always have a handspun project on the needles, and then a few people got interested in doing the same thing. So now I've created a Ravelry thread for the so-called handspun challenge. And there's no end date, so I am thinking maybe I could do this the whole year, but then I'm not sure. We'll see. But you guys are very, very welcome to join in, and there's just one thread, so you can post your finished objects, your works in progress, your spinning, your patterns, just chatter along, have some fun, and share the handspun happiness. And if there is enough participation, I will just randomly draw a prize at some point. Hope to. We'll see. So I don't have the energy to monitor a whole official knit along at the moment, but I think that might just be fun, and if you're interested you can just join in. And you can use handspun yarn that is not spun by yourself. So if you don't spin and if someone else gave you yarn that is handspun, you can totally use that. So yeah, anyways, my handspun project is not that amazing. I feel like now it's supposed to be really good, but it's not. I just kind of wanted to make myself another hat, because the hat that I'm constantly wearing, which is a hand-knit hat, has just stretched out a lot, and I just need a new one. So this is the yarn that I'm using. This is a textured bat that I spun up on my drop spindle. It has dark purples, pinks, browns, and a lot of golden glitter. I think this was a Falkland Merino Angelina Stellina, I don't know what, textured bat by Das Mundschaft. And this is relatively thick, and also since it was a textured bat I didn't worry too much about consistency. I just kind of spun it, and I'm knitting a hat out of it, which looks like this. So I did a 2x2 rib, and now I'm just knitting a stockinette hat. And I only have like 90 grams of yarn, so I think I'll just see how far I can go with that. But I think I would really like to have a slouchy hat, and I think it will be relatively slouchy. And I'm knitting this using Magic Loop on 3.5mm needles. Oops. And I'm just stupid to put it back in my bag. So as you can see, I don't have that many works in progress at the moment. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, and like I said, I really want to finish my design and get it out to test knitters in the next few days, and then yeah. So I will move on to spinning. For spinning, I finished two major things this week. Last week I showed you my Polworth that I was spinning up, and I have finished it. My camera said goodbye there for a second, but I was talking about my spinning. So last week I was spinning a braid by Zauberwiese, which was 100% Polworth, and the logo for Zauberwiese looks like this. Oops. And I have finished it. So this is what my braid looks like. This is a 100% Polworth in a 2-ply. The colorway is called Neon Lichter, which means neon lights, and that is definitely accurate because this yarn is pretty neon. And I have 127 grams, which are 685 meters. So that's 450 meters per 100 grams, which should mean that it is about a light fingering to heavy lace weight. And I am just so happy with this. So this will definitely become some kind of shawl, because I think I have very generous yardage, and 130 grams of yarn should make for a relatively big shawl. When I was spinning it, I was kind of underspinning the singles, and I was worried that when I would, cake it up to ply it, that the singles would fall apart. But then I read up on it and I found out that if you under-twist your singles and then over-ply it, you get a very bouncy yarn. Apparently that's what lots of commercial yarns are even, that's how they're being made. So I didn't really have to worry because the single didn't break a single time. Pun not intended. And yeah, it turned out really, really well, and it's very soft and bouncy. I definitely want to spin more with Polworth now because it just created this really, really lovely yarn. And I kind of did a fractal spin, which meant that the barber pulling came out really nicely. And yeah, I've really, really, really loved this. Yeah, I keep talking about it, but I'm really happy with it. Anyways, my second spinning FO, I have misplaced. Oh, there it is. I started spinning on a braid by Das Mondschaf. And I had ordered this braid not because of the fiber, but because of the yarn and the color. I love these colors, but they only had it on Shetland, and I didn't really want to spin with Shetland, but then I just kind of threw it in my cart, and it wasn't that expensive. So I spun the Shetland up into singles, and honestly, I was itching while I was spinning it. I don't really like rough fibers, and I found out that I don't really enjoy Shetland. But I finished spinning it into singles, and then, because it had very, very long color repeats, I kind of got over myself and over my fear of chain plying and looked up how to do it, and I did a chain ply. So as you can see, the colors stayed together really well, which is the point of chain plying. So if you're not familiar with this technique, it creates a 3-ply, so it divides your yardage by 3. And because you're plying from one single, you keep the colors together, so you don't get any barber pulling. So if you want to spin gradients, it's a really, really good way to do that. I probably overapplied this a little bit. It is quite rough, but then again, it is Shetland, so maybe that's just the way that Shetland is. But this big surprise was that I really, really loved chain plying. So this week, I guess I'm all about learning new things. But yeah, I really enjoyed chain plying. I found a really good video, which I will link in the show notes. A really good tutorial that made it look really easy. And then I watched some other ones that made it look really, really difficult. But yeah, I just kind of figured it out for myself. So I know there's quite a lot of places in here where the chain ply didn't go perfectly well. And I just kind of decided to not go back, but just keep going and get through it. And also in this case, my singles broke a few times, which is quite annoying when you're doing a chain ply, because you have, the loop in your hand and the single in your hand and trying to ply it, and then when something breaks, it just makes it very complicated. But yeah, this is another 125 grams. It doesn't have a label yet, but it is 200 meters roughly. So it's not great yardage, but it's okay. And usually I wouldn't really knit with something that is not next to skin soft, but then I'm really curious to how the colors will knit up. So I might just make a really, really simple, maybe garter stitch shawl or a scarf or something, and just see how it goes. So that's my second finished object in spinning. And then I started something new immediately, because I'm just addicted to spinning at the moment. And this is half the braid I still have left to do. This is a braid by Sarah's Texture Crafts. It is very, very beautiful. It is very silky, as you can see. And where did I put the band? Here. Here you can see it says Sarah's Texture Crafts. She's from the UK. It is a merino rainbow blend with 20% silk, and the colorway is Topsham, I'm not too sure how to say that, but it is very beautiful, and it is 100 grams. So I have started spinning this into very, very lacy singles. Let's see if that focuses. see. Can you see? Focus. There we go. So as you can see, it is very, very thin. So I definitely want to have a sort of lace weight, or kind of at least close to lace weight yarn when it comes to finishing it. And I always have trouble spinning with silky yarns. I don't know, fiber. I think it's because it's more slippery. So I know that, silk blends are really amazing, but this single just kept on breaking in the beginning. So yeah, now I'm going really good, and it's going a lot faster now, and I'm not breaking my singles anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I always find silky fiber really pretty, and I love silky yarn, but spinning it, I'm not too sure. But then again, it's all a learning process, right? So anyways, that's what I'm spinning on right now. I have quite a lot of fiber coming in the mail, hopefully soon. So yeah, that's that. So now I'll move on to acquisitions. So this week, me and my boyfriend Kai, we did a little city trip to another city called Nuremberg, which is very cute, close to here. And I kind of wanted to go because they have an amazing yarn shop. So we went there again this week, and I had only been there once before, and this week I was a little bit disappointed because it was quite crowded and people were a bit unfriendly, and like I couldn't pay with my card, which is annoying. And yeah, anyways, but I did pick out some yarn. And what I did pick out is these two skeins of Isaga or Isaja. It's kind of blowing out, isn't it? But this is their alpaca 2. That's 50% fine alpaca, 50% Peruvian highland wool. And this is surprisingly soft. And the colorway, this one is the light pink. That one is colorway 61. And the light gray is colorway 2S, whatever that means. So they had a lot of colors, and I was kind of telling myself not to go through for the dark pink and gray. And then I ended up with a light version of my favorite colors, I guess. So these are really pastel-y, sort of light pink, light gray. But I really, really like them. And they're 250 meters per 50 grams. So I have 500 meters altogether. So I think they'll make a nice shawl. I'm thinking about making a Cladonia shawl. I think this would be perfect. I would love to have one in these colors. So yeah, we'll see about that. And then, like I mentioned before, I really wanted to get some needles for my 2 at a time socks, and the Good Yarn store, they're like, no, we don't have them. We don't have 2.25 millimeter needles. Adi doesn't have 2.25, and so on. So I left, and then for very, very funny reasons, which I might go into later, my boyfriend had to go to another yarn store with me, and that one was just like a normal, simple yarn store that has, less fancy yarns. And there she said, of course we have 2.25 on Adi's, and no worries. So what I got was, I got these Adi premiums. They're 80 centimeters, 2.25 millimeter. So I think that's a US one, right? I'm not too sure. I'm still not very good with the US sizes. So I got these, and they were relatively cheap. Sorry for the glare. And then that's what I tried my 2 at a time socks with, and I quickly realized that I loved those needles and I wanted to have them again in the 100 centimeters, so I ordered that online. And obviously I'm using them right now, so I can only show you the package. But yeah, so that's my acquisitions for this week. I'm really trying not to buy as much yarn at the moment because I am spinning a lot, which means that I'm not knitting as much. And like I mentioned last week, there is a move ahead. It's still a few months away, so I'm not going to stop buying things, but it does make me a bit more conscious about my stash. So yeah, I think that's it for the whole knitting, spinning, acquisitions part. And now very quickly I'll just talk about life in general. So if you're not interested in that, that's totally fine. Don't forget to let me know if the quality is better this week compared to last week's. So the Ravelry group, as I said, is the Happy Knitting Podcast group. You can find me on Ravelry as Wupfi, which is WUEPFI. And you can find me on Instagram as the Happy Knitting Podcast. So let me just have some tea. So my phone keeps on crashing. I think I'll just do the whole life in general section again. So in general, our life at the moment is a bit all over the place. The reasons for which I explained in more detail last week. Essentially, my boyfriend is changing jobs. I'm slowly but surely finishing up uni, and we're both planning on moving. And because my boyfriend is changing jobs, that means that he's working on the weekends, like today, which is why I'm recording today. And then during the week, he doesn't have his office anymore, so he's working from home. And that has been, pretty different for us. I mean, we've done that before. We've shared our living room as our shared workspace before, so it's nothing really new, but it just takes some getting used to again. And then, we're both kind of lacking a bit of structure at the moment, so I'm just studying from home because I have an exam in 3 weeks, which is, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about that. And then at the same time, my boyfriend is working, but also looking for jobs, so I've been coaching him on, his CV and all that, and that's happening. And yeah, I guess we all kind of have to get used to what's happening now. And last week when I talked to you, I was still pretty freaked out about everything, and now it's all starting to sink in, and it's all starting to become reality, which is really, really good, but also kind of scary sometimes. So all that to say that our life is a little bit chaotic at the moment. But because of that, and because of the fact that we've been really stressed out and not being able to enjoy the positive things that we definitely have achieved and my boyfriend has achieved, on last Wednesday, we decided to take a city trip. I'm out of focus. Focus. Thank you. So we went to Nuremberg, which is a beautiful, beautiful city, which is relatively close to here. And we went shopping, we had lots of food. The weather was really, really terrible. It was rainy and stormy and freezing, and by the end of the day we were both really tired and we walked a lot. But it was still really, really nice, and we went to a really, really nice furniture store and kind of started planning our future apartment, which was nice. Because we are already living together now, but now we live in an apartment where about half the furniture was already there and we don't like it very much, and obviously we can't take it when we move somewhere else. So new apartment for us means new furniture. Anyway, so that trip was really, really nice, and then the rest of the week I've been, like I said, studying, and I've also been catching up with lots of old friends because everyone was kind of away lately and now they're all coming back. And yeah, I've been working a lot on my design. I think now that I've done my own design, I kind of appreciate more how much work designers have to put in. Like, it is so much more complicated than you think, because obviously you don't only just knit without instructions, but you constantly, you have to make sure that you have this right stitch count, because I like to have, the stitch count for every row written on the side, and even though I know that what I want the stitch count to be after a certain row, you have to go back and you have to check it and you have to make sure that your pattern is exactly correct, and so yeah, I've been finding that quite interesting and I'm enjoying it. But I also, now when I think of people who make a lot of patterns, I can really appreciate that effort, even though I'm sure that if I did a second pattern now, I would already make only half the amount of mistakes that I've made so far, so it would be a lot easier. So yeah, the last thing that I wanted to mention is that a lot of people have been choosing words for 2016. So instead of saying I will do such and such and this and that and so on, you choose a word or a motto, I guess, that kind of defines what you want your 2016 to be like. And everyone had amazing words, and I was like, I want a word, and it took me really, really long to figure mine out. But I have finally figured it out, and my word is challenges or challenge. So I want to learn to challenge myself more and embrace challenges more. And the reasons for that is that generally I used to really like trying new things and challenging myself, and I always had to do the hard thing, and yeah, I'm pretty ambitious and so on. But lately, a lot of things have been, like challenges have been negative for me, and I've kind of been stressing out, and I've been thinking about things too much, and we've all been there. So I noticed lately that I've been really enjoying when I have challenged myself there. So, learning new things and trying new techniques and, throwing our life over the edge and starting fresh and all that. It's a lot of challenges, but it's also really positive. So my word is or my motto, I guess, is to embrace the challenges that lay ahead in 2016. And it is definitely a case of reframing things. Like, you can look at things often in different ways. So that's something that is scary and stressful can also be something positive. So yeah, that's my word for 2016. Now I think I've really been rambling on for too long, and since there have been so many cuts, I have no idea for how long I've actually recorded. So that should be interesting. And I'm so worried that, I messed up the recording, but if you're watching this, I guess it worked. So please let me know if the quality is okay, if it is possibly better, just let me know. And you can always let me know in the episode thread of the Ravelry group or on YouTube if you prefer that. So until next week, I hope you guys have an awesome week. And cross your fingers for me, because I have a dentist appointment tomorrow, which might mean that my wisdom teeth have to go out right now rather than in a few months. So if you want to be nice, you can cross your fingers. And yeah, if you're in the northern hemisphere, maybe you have snow, maybe you can, enjoy that. And I'm sure you can always enjoy your knitting and spinning, and feel free to share that with me on Instagram, on the Ravelry thread. I always love hearing from you. I love getting messages. Yeah, I just love being in contact with you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and bye bye.